listening for metaphors and similes. It would be something like you would hear like crazy like a fox. So you might end up drawing a little fox head, little pointy ears. That somebody is like like crazy like a fox. So you have this little fox. I don't know, something crazy, like a little arrow kind of going around, kind of like they're dizzy, something like that. So crazy like a fox. You hear something about the activity of like a tornado. You could draw out a tornado. So you want to listen to these little metaphors because I mean they give you all of these symbols that are for free, and practice your symbol making, whether it's animals, weather elements, documents, whatever it might be. Okay, so take advantage of that because rather than having to write out tornado, you just write out or illustrate out the word. Tor I can't even remember how to spell tornado right now. Okay, so listen for those and take advantage of it to where you can draw these images because your mind remembers 90% of the images that you end up illustrating and only about 10% of the words. So take advantage where you can of being able to draw those images. In tip number 8, in listening for descriptive structures, this might be where somebody says, okay, these items are parallel. Okay, so you might have some items that kind of stack on top of each other, or that there could be a hierarchy of information. Some things at the top, and then things kind of cascade down from there. Okay, and maybe in a couple of different branches. So we have a hierarchy. Something could be a hub of information. So we have a central hub, and things kind of radiate out from there in different directions to other points. Yeah, speaking of radiating, maybe we do have a central point, but it keeps expanding its circle of influence. Okay, so its influence keeps radiating out rather than inward. So we want to listen for these colorful descriptive structures. In tip number 9, moving on. If you are, taking your notes and you've, illustrated something out, then while you're doing something, maybe you're notating that, and then, there's something that the speaker said, and then all of a sudden you hear the next thing, and you said, "Oh man, I missed this." Don't worry about that. Do not get frustrated over that of something. Just move on and catch this point, and make sure that you just keep going on from there. And if you end up missing anything, go find Sally. Okay, because Sally does a good job of taking notes. Seems like she never misses anything. So go over, talk to her, and then kind of compare because maybe she ended up missing something that you caught. Okay, so if you miss something, just keep moving on. Don't get frustrated with it, and then just compare notes with somebody else in class. For tip number 10, don't fixate on mistakes or misspellings. Okay, needed 2 S's for misspellings, and of course I needed the T instead of the P for mistakes. So the nice thing is that as you read through this so quickly that it just looked correct. All right, so don't worry about it. Just know that they're your notes. Not necessarily they don't have to be for anybody else. Although you could end up sharing. Groups work nice, but really the whole thing is that just continue to put down information. The information is what matters. Okay, not that you've that you spelled things correctly or done things perfectly. In tip number 11, being aware of the text imagery relationship. Let's say we have a line, and over on this side we had our traditional note taking, which had a whole bunch of text to it, and over here we have very visual, almost all visual, just using nothing but pictures or drawings. Okay, and somewhere in between is kind of the middle ground. you have to know where you fall in, whether you feel like you want to add more text and less visuals, or more visuals and less text, or maybe even somewhere right in the middle. All right, and sometimes this could end up changing and vacillating back and forth, but you have to find out where your comfort zone is. Remember the zone? Yeah, what is your zone? Is it more visual or is it more text? You determine, and then you will be able to feel more comfortable and more confident in your own visual note taking. Some professors who end up using visual notes that require their students to do visual notes, such as, say, like in organic chemistry, have found a good amount of success when they have their students at least apply some area of visual along with their text, whether it's somewhere along this line, midpoint, or just onto the other side, rather than just being all text-based. Okay, so one of the things that I personally found out when I was doing a master's degree in exercise physiology, when I was doing microbiology and stuff like that, I actually started to use more visuals and started to almost achieve straight A's with everything. I might have had maybe a B in there, but nothing below that. So be aware of that text imagery relationship. In our last tip for number 12, establish a graphic vocabulary. Now, the whole thing is that we have to know that visuals really are our first language. It's what our brain spoke to us when we were first learning. When between the ages of 0 and 5 or so. For my own kids, that's what they're doing right now. Is they do a lot of drawing, a lot of doodling, and it's just maybe even making simple marks, but that is something that can continue on even as you get older, for the rest of your life until pretty much you die. That if you can do this, you can really help to improve your ability to learn. Okay, like for chemistry, you might have elements that you can end up saying this is H2O, this is water. For English, you have a book, so you have your rectangles that you combine together in developing a book. So developing your visual vocabulary, stuff that you can end up quickly putting into your notes because you've already been practicing with them, okay? And using them over and over again. And it's stuff that makes sense to you. It may not necessarily make sense to somebody else, okay? So what would you equate to as an assignment? Would it be a paper? Would it be something else? Maybe a pencil? That's up to you. What would equal a quiz? Okay. Maybe it could be, some type of a face, a scared face of being a quiz. What would be a project? Maybe squares connected by lines and arrows. And we have step 1, step 2, step 3. So, this could equal a project. So there's exercises in the lessons. Each of the lessons to helping you develop this graphic vocabulary by developing symbols that you can use over and over and over again. So it's like kind of creating a legend for your notes, all right, that you would see on a map. That we know what a road looks like. We know what a park looks like because we see this little tree icon, and so forth and so forth and so on. All right, so establishing a graphic vocabulary is going to be very, very important, and that are our 12 tips for listening.